once you are in this club, if you like, you have common ground. And a lot of the time you need that connection with other people, other mums just saying, how's this journey for you?
G'day, I'm Deborah Caldo. Welcome to the Red Giraffe Solutions Expanding Worlds podcast, where we aim to support you as you help your young person with additional needs plan for their future, a future where they're safe, secure, and live a rewarding and fulfilling life. From around the world, I share stories and I share solutions from people making this possible right now. I'm a parent of a young person with additional needs, so I understand the challenges. Many of the people I've interviewed on this podcast have already helped me design a better future for my daughter, and I hope that they might help you as well to imagine what's possible for your young person. This podcast is made possible by Red Giraffe Solutions, which is a project I'm proud to be part of, supporting families to build a better future for their children. We now have available at Red Giraffe Solutions an online course called Independent Cooking Made Easy. This is a new and unique approach we developed when we realised traditional cooking techniques and recipes were never going to enable our daughter to cook without some support or supervision. It's a safe, simple system that uses no more than 5 ingredients, has no weighing, cutting or chopping, and no lifting of heavy dishes. Each of the 16 recipes in the course includes a step-by-step video of our daughter making the meal, plus a visual recipe card. We developed this for our daughter to solve her challenges with cooking, and every recipe in the course she can and does genuinely cook for herself. You can find a link to the course in this episode's show notes. I think like most people, as my daughter has gotten older, I've focused on finding solutions that will help her build the future that's right for her. The early days and the struggles, I don't think of these as much. Perhaps on purpose, if I'm honest, because even if it's a long time ago, some memories still hurt. But sharing our stories is how we build our community and support each other. Remind each other that we're not alone. Someone's been before us and they've not just survived, they've thrived. But it is important to look back, to see how far you've come, and to celebrate the awesomeness of our young people. We're all part of a community in some way. And in this week's episode, I'm talking to someone who gets how important community is. My guest is Kay, parent of Tobias. He's one of those awesome young people I was just talking about. And she's sharing her story, the good, the bad, and the ugly. But most importantly, the good, in terms of how she's planning for and with her son so that he can build the future that he wants. But enough from me, let's hear from Kay. Thank you very much, Kay, for talking to me. Can you tell me a little bit about you?
So we are a family of 4. I've got my husband Jeff. We have Tobias, who's my special needs young adult. He's 21 years old. I've got a daughter of 18. And Tobias was diagnosed with a very rare condition, a syndrome called Odo syndrome, within the first 12 months of his life. If I look back, even when I was pregnant, there was no movement at all. And I used to find myself going up to the hospital on a regular basis saying, is this right? And being told, oh, you've got a lazy baby going on there. Nothing at all, no problems. And it was quite apparent when Tobias was born there was something wrong. And that was really the start of the journey. We were in and out of hospital on a regular basis trying to identify what actually was wrong with Tobias. And then after 12 months, there was a big conference where they have all these different specialists come in from across the world. And what they do is flash photographs of patients, young people, that they can't actually identify a particular issue with. And when they presented Tobias's features, that's when 3 people in the audience went, I know what this is. And that's when we got the diagnosis. Interesting enough, once you have a diagnosis, the world changes. So once we were diagnosed, really at that point, the doors of support opened. And that started with having our own social worker and then regularly going to see different specialists depending on what the needs were. And actually it was really helpful because whilst Tobias was getting support for his communication, the way he was moving and things like that, at the same time I was able to connect and meet with lots of other mums that were in completely the same situation as me. There's no manual around this. You're along for the ride. And a lot of those people that I met in those early years, I'm actually still friends with, which is really nice, because once you are in this club, if you like, you have common ground. And a lot of the time when you're going through the benefit system, even from an early stage, you need that connection with other people, other mums just saying, how's this journey for you? And interesting enough, you normally find that there's a lot that's similar, common ground, and that you still struggle with, and that never changes, that the issues may be different depending on what age group the kids are at, but it's still the same problem. So it's just finding your way through it.
Can I ask you a question? Did you find that you lost other friends?
Absolutely, I did, yeah. In fact, I remember, this isn't a friendship situation, but I remember signing Tobias up to, I won't say the name of it, but it's a well-known play group where you take your child along and you put them in a ballpark and you sing nursery rhymes and do all these fun things with them. And Tobias, when he was about 2 years old, he flapped a lot. He made lots of loud noises, and I remember taking him to this particular play group and putting him in the ballpark with all the others, and every other mum took their child out of the ballpark when I put Tobias in. And you could see the fear on their faces because he didn't conform and look, I say it's in inverted commas, normal. It was a fear factor, and it absolutely broke my heart, and I never went back again. And that's when I realised the first time, my goodness, I can't believe how isolated you can feel when you have a child with special needs. In fact, there's lots of examples of that. I remember when Tobias, taking him out shopping, and he threw himself on the floor and had a proper paddy. I was on my own and I was really struggling to get him off the floor. And I think he was probably a bit overwhelmed with his environment. And I was quickly trying to get him organised and get him sorted, and I remember someone going, can't control your child, disgusting behaviour, and you really have to bite your lip, you really do. My final example, before I finish my rant, was driving in a car park, going into the disabled bay. Tobias is in the back of the car, in a car seat, and some woman tapping on my shoulder, she went, people like you using disabled spaces shouldn't be allowed, you're disgusting. I went, hold on a minute, before you judge, I suggest you really understand the scenario here. I may be the driver, but that doesn't mean I have to be the disabled person. If you have a look in the car, I'm not actually the only passenger here. And actually, to be fair, she was horrified and couldn't apologise enough, but damage done as far as I was concerned. But that was 20 years ago, and I do honestly think, on a positive note, the world is far more inclusive these days. There's far more opportunities, and I've lived that, and I can see the positive side of that. And people moan about social media, but actually I've seen how that can be utilised in a positive way for Tobias. His communication skills have come on leaps and bounds since the internet and since mobile phones, and be able to speak to his friends, and even his capacity for reading small messages, because he's motivated to do so, because he wants to talk to his friends and communicate with them. So there is a place for all of these things in society if they are used in the right way.
Now that he's got older, what are some of the issues that you're now looking at?
Now he's 21, employability is a big one. Tobias is a very sociable, happy young man who is really keen to contribute to society. And he's made that quite clear to me. I think the only issue we have is managing his expectation of what he can realistically achieve. 1 week he'll want to drive a train, next week he'll want to fly a plane. He's got high ambitions. And it's really taking that on board and saying, okay, we can't drive the train, we won't be able to fly the plane, but what can we do within those environments that he's obviously showing great interest in, that he can have a fulfilling job and feel that he's contributing to society. And it does worry me, because the reality is, based on where we live, if you look at the percentage of employability of special needs young adults, it's 5.75%. That's what it currently stands out. And I sit on various forums for the fact that it's a case of, if I need to change this, I'm not one to sit back and wait for it to change. I want to be involved. I want to help make that change. And a lot of it is down to education. A lot of it is when you speak to the companies, a lot of the feedback is no one really has explained to us, how do we make it a simple process to take on someone with special needs? So it's not all just one way. I think there has to be a lot of training, education and support that the local companies need in order to make this a simple process. Because I think that the want is there, but I think there's a bit of a fear factor that's been created over the years of what are the legal implications here? How simple is it? Who monitors it? How is it managed? But as a family, and I know I share this view with a lot of mums, if there isn't anything out there, we'll flipping make it. We'll create it ourselves. If that's going to be creating a car washing business, if it means going to the local church and offering to help, we'll do it. There was something else I heard fairly recently where loneliness is a big issue. They were saying we've got care homes where people sit there and they're not being motivated or stimulated. And I'm like, guess what? I know at least half a dozen young adults who would love the opportunity to sit down with someone and just talk about their day and share a bit of conversation. I'm a great believer that there is a job out there for everybody. It just needs to be focused and thought about in the right way. And the other one, of course, is housing. That's the big one for us. And quite early on, Tobias made it quite clear during an annual review where he said, Mum, I don't want to be living with you in 5 years' time. He said, I want to be living with my friends. I want to go out and party and I want to go to the cinema and theatre. Why would I want to be staying at home? It was a really defining moment because, hands up, I hadn't actually thought that far in advance. I'd always thought that Tobias would be with us and we would have to support him as a family. And again, my biggest fear at that time was what happens when I'm no longer around? Who's going to look after my child? Who's going to look after them and know their little ways that no one else understands? And as time went on, I thought, do you know what, Tobias, if that's what you want, why shouldn't you have that? Why shouldn't you have it all? Again, now we're in a position where I need to facilitate that change. Again, it's a huge issue and a real common theme running through. Loads of parents would love to see their children set up in their own homes, living in assisted living, to be as independent as they possibly can be. But it's a bit of a minefield, if the truth is known. So we are now at that journey at age 21 where we're thinking, okay, how do we make that work?
We all have our stories and they're all worth sharing, not just because we deserve to be heard, but because other families need to hear what's possible. To hear that those days where we feel alone, we definitely aren't alone. Because as Kay talked about, we all need that connection to others who understand. So while this week was about sharing stories, next week in part 2 of my conversation with Kay, we're talking about solutions. Specifically the housing solution she's working on at the moment, so that Tobias can move out of home and live his life his way. I just want to say thank you for taking the time to listen, and I hope that the stories and solutions shared on here help you as you support your young person to create their future. If you know anyone who would find the ideas useful, please share the podcast with them. To support the podcast, please consider finding out more about the Independent Cooking Made Easy online course. It's a safe, simple system that works. There are links to the course in the show notes. You can find me on Instagram and Facebook. You can also connect with me on LinkedIn at Deborah Caldo. I'd love to have a conversation with you on any of the topics we all care about. Bye for now.